Okay, it's true. Yeah, God has a wife. You didn't know that. I mean, with the way that he acts, I don't know. I always heard the old story that whenever you saw it was sunshiny, but it was raining still, that it was God beating his wife. And then I heard that it was actually the devil beating his wife. And then somebody said, "You mean the devil's up in heaven dropping down rain?" And I'm guessing that's why that ended. But and also the old wife beating bullshit and everything from back in the day has really waned. Thank God. And believe me, it's not this God, but this is Yahweh and his Ashera. And get a little pin here that I'm writing with the point. Yahweh is the guy right out front. Shpow. There's your Yahweh right there. He's a bull. And he's got flies and stuff going all around him. He's got flies. And then there's this kid. He's got a little crew cut. And there's Ashera. There's his wife. And she's sitting around in the background on her little dais, little chair, reading the morning paper, going over things, holding out something, looking in perhaps a polished piece of rock or shield piece, like a mirror, like a looking glass, as they used to call them. Now, disgustingly, I have to point this out that they both have genitalia, but it looks kind of odd. They're leopard skinned all over. Everywhere is just dots. She is too, so it's leopard skin. So these people are wearing skin still at the time. And interestingly, this correlates to an old depiction of the satyrs. You remember the satyrs, the people that were half goat and half not, and they still wore goat pants and things like that, or um, half their armor was goat. Like you hear about the fish people, and half their stuff was fish, looked like fish scales. That's not these people though. The satyrs had like half goat skins and half calf skins, and you look in the Bible, and all those guys were the goat farmers of yore, and they knew what they were doing. The old stories about how Joseph was so much better than the pharaohs at raising goats. They were apparently the goat gods. They throw it out there. Whoops, that shows you something. And the cattle, and the cow worship, and the cow sacrifice, and sacrificing the bulls that they had going on. And this is Yahweh and his Ashera. And that's Jesus right there. Yep, that would be Jesus. But the odd thing about that is the Yahweh of the Bible claims that there's nobody beside him. There's nothing there. And you find that that's whenever he is denying that the other two should be in his pantheon, and he's just all that in a bag of chips. And he's a jealous God. And there's an old ancient story that I got, an old Gnostic thing, where it tells you where a kid got killed down in the land of the satyrs that started a feud that he said at that time still went on to that day. This was like 350 BC, something like that. And he said that his son, so this ends up being a feud, like the Hatfields and McCoy situation. His son goes and see these people, and they coerce his son into, how Christian people and stuff will try to push, and all these new Yah people and everything try to push this stuff on you and everything. So these people came and tried to push the stuff on him, and they showed him the picture. Now at this time, so still at 300 BC, they had a representation of Yahweh. Yep, this is these people. They were the Hebrew guys. The one guy had the chest piece on that had the gold on it, wearing white. Okay, yeah, the Ummim and Thummim, and wearing the ephod, and Anyhow, the kid made a remark and said that it looked like they were pooping, and that this is your Lord. Is it the Lord of the flies? And then he laughed, and they had made a comment about her already being, now not the kid, but the people there, saying Yahweh and Ashera, and that's his Ashera. She's his fat cow. She brings forth his kids, and she's the mother of all everything on the planet. And the kid said that I'm not a kid of a fat cow, which they took offense to her, but yet they just said fat cow to her. He said, looks like they're pooping. And who is this guy? The Lord of the Flies? Well, he's the God, I'm sorry, the God of flies. The God of the flies. That's what they call him in the thing. What is he, the God of the flies? Because cows always have flies all around them and stuff, and there's even flies next to this. And they'd showed him this representation that apparently is this, because they described the lady, fat, sitting on her seat, him and the kid, they're cow-faced people, wearing skins, got the bugs next to him, and what is he, Lord of the Flies? This looks like this is it. By the way, there's a fleur-de-lis right there on top of his head. So you don't think they have symbolism and shit all in the church all the way through it, and then even now where they've taken pagan stuff and thrown it all in there, but it's just, we need to wise up to this, because we need to find out what the truth is and start trying to do what it takes for mankind to become the best mankind that man can become. And surely this crap made up by some people that were nomadic tent people that went around and caused genocide to steal a land and apparently religions from people, and end up claiming it as their own and twisting it a little bit and making it into the religion we believe today. It's not real apropos here, and it wasn't through the Dark Ages, which is what this book caused. And it wasn't through all of the wars that still go on today for that little stupid piece of rock that everybody thinks somebody should be sacred about, because one guy had a flying horse and the other one almost killed his kid there. Oh, and wasn't the Ark also at one time almost there? So, anyhow, Yahweh and his Ashera. That's her. Let's look at some of these other things. There's another inscription right here that mentions it too, and apparently it's some type of cult ritually thing that they had going on. There's a big dimple here. Could have been you got your blood in there or something. They're not sure. And then you put your hand in this and make a print, and then scratching right up here. Right here says Yahweh and his Ashera. Right there. Yahweh and his Ashera. There's another picture of it that's got it decrypted, but it doesn't look as good. But anyhow, there it is. YHVHASHRA. Well, that would be the thing for an A, and you can't tell it's right there's a scratch. Asher. Yahweh and Asher. So, anyhow. So who is Ashera? Well, she ends up being the goddess here, and that's Yahweh and his Ashera. Only people know it nowadays as being Baal, and being El, and El's Ashera. And then when Baal died, Ashera and her son Baal had gotten together. And, oh, like the Whore of Babylon thing? Yeah, very much like that. And believe it or not, this is the land of the Canaanites, and this is the gods that the Hebrews are worshiping. Let me show you that. That's a Hittite marriage, but everybody there has their god looking the same as they. And this symbol right here, by the way, is time, and that's the same symbol that Abraham has. And by the way, Kronos is the god of time. And if you'll remember the ancient Greek lore from Greek lit, he's the one that ate all of his kids except for one, who is the storm god. And Baal in this pantheon is a storm god. In fact, he's the one that gets the name Z, and they call him Zeus in Greek and Roman because they like to put us on the end of anything, or the little things like that on the end of names, and it puts them all deified. So check this out. You don't think it had to do with Babylonian stuff at all, because Babylonian people are just the worst in the wow. They got the whole cherubim sitting on thing. That's the whole cherubim deal, and there never was anything but the cherubim in the Garden of Eden that got kicked out of Babylon with its hanging gardens. Yeah, and it doesn't really seem to go back to full old time, but then they claim it all the way back and try to make up a story off of the tree of life and the snakes and so on. And I'll show you a picture of that here in a second too. But well, sure enough, this is a stamp bearing what some scholars identified as a winged Yahweh. Well, why do they identify as a winged Yahweh? Because that says Yahweh here on the side of the coin. And that is Ashera, flying in heaven. Yep. And here we go again with this almost a palm tree type thing. So, interesting, you know. And another picture of Ashera real quick. You see where we get angels from? You see where we get angels from? You see the two fleur-de-lis coming up the side of that? Do you see how that has the Egyptian marking down below there at the bottom of it? And that Ahura Mazda symbols, Persian gods and Egyptian? Well, look, the name of it is Winged Yahweh Elohim. It's not just me making some shit up, people. Where's another picture of it? Here's another picture of Winged Yahweh Elohim. That's what the inscription is that says next to it. There's Yahweh. Well, who is Yahweh? Well, I just showed you. That's who the hell he is. He sure enough is. And it's Sumerian, or at least they were adopting all of that at the time. So it looks like they adopted everybody's thing, and apparently they got made fun of all the way through this. Maybe the end of them having any symbol whatsoever was, hey, it looks like poop, you know? And who are you, the Lord of the Flies? It just, that whole statement doesn't come across well. There's other inscriptions they find of it. This right here. This was an inscription to Yahweh and his Ashera. It shows a lion, a couple of little antelope creatures eating off of a tree of life. And this was meant to be some type of offering or a wish that you want for her and everything. But anyhow, this is in Kuntelet Adred. God, how can you say that? Kuntelet Adred. Yahweh and his Ashera. So you can just look this up. All you got to do is Google Yahweh and his Ashera, and sure enough, here's another picture of Yahweh, his consort, and all of the things that go with it. In fact, here's an Egyptian inscription that says Yahweh. And people wonder what Yahweh means. I should probably make a separate video totally on what does Yahweh mean. I really should. Because I could go deep into where that all comes from and everything about it too. But this is who Yahweh is. And you see the ladies attached to it. And more than one person knows this. They've got these inscriptions everywhere. Yahweh and Ashera. Yahweh and Ashera. Yahweh and Ashera. Well, who's Ashera? Let's learn more about Ashera. Because they sure enough broke everything up. Yeah, they took and they chopped them all up after a while, didn't they? They took and chopped them all up. And now you're finding out that they chopped up what they were worshiping and took away their symbols when people made fun of them. And so, I want to tell you now, in the Bible, when it talks about how they made fun of their little symbolistic gods and killed them for it, that actually they were the ones. It is turned 180 degrees out. It's turned 180 degrees out. And that they were the ones that actually had this problem. Oh, here's another one right here. You know the tree with the snake and how they were eating from the tree that was sacred in the Garden of Eden that they weren't supposed to eat from? Yeah? And the snake and the tree. And they're eating from it and taking fruit from the Garden of Eden. Wouldn't it be interesting to know all this here? Yeah, well, it really doesn't have much to do with what the Bible says, because they couldn't read this stuff. Hebrews didn't actually have a language until way, way after Moses. Way, way after. And so none of that would have made too much sense for them. They would just say that the Egyptians are bad people because apparently they made a pact with a snake and a tree. You know? And that's where you can, they just made up a lot of this stuff. You look around at everybody's ancient symbolism. I've been doing this for 35 years. So, on and off for 35 years. And studied ancient symbolism around the world. Never could attach it to the Bible until I figured out, oh, there's your attachment. It all goes away to Baal and Ashera and El. And so let's look at El, Baal. And if we look, wow, it's going to show El Diablo and then some Baal stuff. You know, the word Lord is the word Baal. And how they use El in the Bible. Let's see if I can just, I thought it would really show more. So Baal worship, this is Baal worship. So the idols that you worship are these bull gods. And there's your Yahweh situation going on. And he's the one that, yeah, there's your Yahweh right there. Right? Yahweh. Yeah, and there's Ashera sitting over there, but she's the pole. She turned into a pole. And then they call Asheras the things that are out in front of Egyptian pyramids that are, that's Ashera. And that's actually the monolith that sticks up. And there's one sitting right here in the middle. You know, the obelisk that's sitting in the center of the sundial of the 8-spoked wheel that's pagan as hell. Right there on the Vatican Square, on Capitol Hill. Ironically, almost in the exact same spot that the old Mithraeum used to be for Mithra and Sol Invictus. You'll have to check out another video to find that one out. But so what did they do during Baal worship? You know, well, Baal worship is the one where they had the calf, right? So when they talk about having the calf, whenever they come back down from the mountain, that's what they've been doing. And Baal is a god of lightning. You know, there's a whole Baal cycle you can read. It tells you about Baal and his Ashera, and he goes through this whole thing, and it's kind of zodiacal, and I guess people didn't get it, and the Hebrews didn't get it. Well, maybe they did get it. That's what they did, and then they got in trouble for it. And when you find out that the people at Baal Pure and I come to find out that was the Hebrews. They probably had the bit shit slapped out of them and then thrown away. Check this out. They served idols. They were ensnared by them. They sacrificed to demons their own sons and daughters. They threw their own kids into fires, shedding innocent blood, the blood of their own sons and daughters, whom they sacrificed to idols of Canaan, desecrating the land with bloodshed. They defiled themselves by their actions, became adulterers by their conduct. You know? I mean, there you go, people. Now, this is something they steer away from in church very harshly, but look at this little girl down here holding her kid. She's like, oh, ain't he cute? I'm going to throw him away. Yeah, I'm going to chunk him in the fire. Show you one more picture of this. Gives you a good depiction of what actually was going on. And you can see that in all these pictures now. This revelry was going on where they're throwing kids in there, where they take and just hand over and throw the kid in the fire. And there's a pit here, and you see all this smoke behind him, and you wonder what that is. That's because right behind him here, there's actually a pit with a fireplace. Let's get a better look at that picture. There's a pit with a fireplace in it, and they're going to drop that kid in. He's going to go down into that fire, right? And they're fixing to sacrifice the kid to it. Isaiah 57 records the loss of spiritual leadership that contributed to the suicidal demise of the nation where the righteous man perishes. Yeah, well, so this is Baal worship and El worship. Here's that picture I was talking about. Let's see if I can zoom in it. Oh, they've kind of cut it a little bit here, right at the edge, so you can't see the people quite. I'm guessing you can't see it. They're shoving the guy's hand shoving coals into the fire. The heat's coming out. He's making this thing get real hot, and it's flaming out the top of it. So it's red hot. And what they do is they throw the baby on there, and the baby sears and squirms and falls into the pit and gets down in here and just gets burned up. And, oh, by the way, the name of this is Gehenna, and that's the name for hell in the Bible. So this is what all this comes from. And if it's not gruesome enough right here, what they're doing with all these tambourines and tabrets and horns is to cover up the sound of the baby screaming and the parents wailing for their child dying. And looky here. Do you see these two kids? These two kids right here? They're actually watching this and watching this guy and seeing what's going on. And they're set aside, people. Look, they're set aside. They're next. They're next. And that's what the Hebrews did. And whatever God they felt like they found, they thought this was God. They were, and you're like, oh, but they fell aside, then they come back. No, 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 no. Here's the intelligence of these frickin' people. They thought this was God. Here's El. Instead of the Baal version of it, here's El's version of it. What does that look like to you? If I told you the ancient Hebrews used to stand here like this and worship this God that looked like that, what do you think about that? What do you think about that? Hmm? Have a little altar here, and yeah, that's exactly who the Hebrews were worshiping. This is what has been tried to be hidden for so long. The whole Dark Ages and killing all those people was trying to kill off anybody that knew they had anything to do with it, till it all kind of went away and everybody on earth thought that it was holy now, and now we can sit around in the church and talk about how holy all these people are. The reason Catholics brought back in Mother Mary is because of Ashera, and once they really got all the relics there that they had stolen from humanity and got them hidden, they're like, it's got a whole lot more to do with the mom thing. I don't know. They just say she's a virgin and that's about it, and not necessarily true. There's an ancient story where they get the virgin thing from, that something was wrong and they had to cut her open and give her C-section. Therefore, she never really passed 1/4 from her womb, and that was a way to cheat God. That because the firstborn are all supposed to be sacrificed, and she didn't do that. She cheated God, and then that's what set up the whole Baal, El, Pantheon, Canaanite thing, and it ruined it all. And there's your woman who ate for an apple, trying to just equate shit back and forth, and keep doing it. And yeah, Baal worship. That's pretty much it. And it has to do with all these spires, all these things, and stuff, and it has a lot to do with this too. In fact, it has very much so a lot to do with that. And the reason that they're in that is they're in that feud. Oh, because Baal's son was named Eudid, and the ancient Greeks equated that to the word feud. And then they said, well, that's the whole thing with the feud I was talking about earlier that started off and made a giant feud that goes on to this day. The only problem is one of them got a bunch of people to believe that their God was somehow real, even though now we can find out it was stolen like double or triple time. And if you look at some of my other videos, I'll break it down to you how they are not ever apparently with anybody else. And who's Yahweh? Yahweh's that bull god that you throw your stuff into. There's Yahweh right there. What makes that any damn different? Just because they took away the statue doesn't mean anything. I'll tell you another thing. Moses, just one last little thing to flash in here. I know the video's getting long, and I appreciate you staying with me. But Moses and the first thing that pops up at the top, can you see that? Moses with 10 Commandments, Moses with tablets, Moses with horns. Horns is at the top. You click on that, and look at all these statues with Moses with horns. And I've heard the apologetic stuff. They've had 2,000 years to come up with a good reason why Moses had rays of light coming out of his head. That's what it meant. How come everybody in the old churches knew that he had horns after he came down with the tablets after meeting this entity? What is the whole oddity of that? You know, funny how Charlton Heston didn't have horns when he came down. They kind of left that crap out. They also left out the whole shine and everything. And they tried to cover it up by saying, oh no, that means beams of light. That Karen means being a light. And they're like, no, Karen, they're goat horns. And Michelangelo himself made Moses with horns. Look at all these famous statues of these people that are made where Moses has horns. Look, there's even stained glasses in church, still in churches in Germany, where Moses has horns. And they don't want you to take it out of the church. It's been there since the 1100s or less. Look at this, Moses bringing the tablets. He's got horns. Isn't that crazy? That's crazy. No, that's what the Bible says. Nobody's been paying attention for 2,000 years. It's been a fog. They said the fog would last till the end of an age, and I looked at that word and it's zodiacal. So I looked up, and each zodiac age is like well over 2,000 years, and that we were at the time of Jesus going into the age of Pisces, and now we're at the age of Aquarius. And I'm like, yeah, I grew up. My second album I ever had was Fifth Dimension, Age of Aquarius. Oh yeah, the dawning of the age of Aquarius. Yeah, the hippies and how everything changed right there. And, oh wow, didn't everything change? And wow, look at how mankind's... Wow. And a veil has been lifted, people. Enjoy. Like it if you like what you found out. And I'm sorry if you don't.